Be me, 28-year-old feminist living with husband of 3 years now. Both work full-time jobs. He's accountant, I'm graphic designer. Come from traditional family where mom did all the housework growing up. Always resented how women expected to do domestic labor for free. Decided early on I would never fall into traditional housewife role. When we moved in together, made it clear I won't do traditional tasks. Told him I refuse to cook clean or do laundry because gender roles. He seemed understanding and said we'd figure out fair system together. Assumed he agreed with my feminist principles about rejecting roles completely. Never occurred to me I'd still need to do something around house. First few weeks he handles most of the housework himself, without complaint. Does dishes after dinner, takes out trash, does laundry on weekends. I don't offer to help because don't want to fall into traditional role. Tell myself he's doing it because he wants to, not because expected. Feel proud that I'm not becoming domestic servant like my mother was. He suggests we make chore chart to split responsibilities fairly between us. Immediately get defensive and say chore charts are patriarchal control mechanisms. Tell him household labor should be organic, not assigned like we're children. He looks confused but says, okay, we'll just do what needs doing. Assume he understood. I meant he'd keep doing what he's been doing. Month in, and he starts asking me to help with specific tasks. Asks if I can do laundry this weekend while he grocery shops. Tell him laundry is traditionally women's work, so I won't do it. He points out grocery shopping is also traditionally women's work he's doing. Say that's different because he's choosing to reject gender roles himself. He looks frustrated but doesn't argue, just does both tasks himself. Feel satisfied, I stood up for my principles about traditional roles. Notice he seems more tired lately, but tell myself, that's not my problem. He chose to do these tasks I didn't force him to. Anything. Start leaving my dishes in sink after eating throughout the day. He does his own dishes, but leaves mine sitting there untouched. Ask him why he's not doing the dishes like he usually does. He says he did his dishes and I should do my own. Tell him dishes are traditionally women's work. I refuse to do them. He says then, they're your dishes, you figure it out yourself. We stare at each other for a moment. Then he walks away frustrated. My dishes pile up in sink for 3 days before I finally wash them. Feel resentful that he forced me to do traditional women's task, but also realize he's not going to just do everything for me anymore. 2 months in, and house is getting noticeably messy and dirty. Neither of us cleaning bathrooms, vacuuming, or doing general tidying up. He stopped doing most housework after I refused to help with anything. I'm not doing it either because I reject traditional gender roles. Dust accumulating on surfaces, dishes piling up, trash overflowing regularly. Bathroom getting gross floors covered in dirt and crumbs everywhere. Friends come over and make comments about how messy place looks. Feel embarrassed, but also don't want to clean because that's giving in. He doesn't clean either, just lives in the mess we've created together. Realize we're in standoff where neither of us will do housework now. He sits me down and says we need to talk about household responsibilities. Tells me house is becoming unlivable and we need to split chores somehow. Immediately launch into speech about how traditional roles are oppressive to women. Tell him I won't be forced into domestic servitude just because I'm female. He says he's not asking me to do traditional women's work specifically, just asking me to do anything to contribute to household maintenance. Tell him I contribute by working full-time and earning my own money. He points out he also works full-time and still did housework before. Say that was his choice to do it. I never asked him to. He looks defeated and says we can't keep living like this in filth. Suggests we hire cleaning service to handle housework professionally instead. He says that's expensive and we should be able to clean our own home. Tell him if he wants it clean, he can clean it himself. He says no. If you want it clean, you can clean it too. We're at impasse where neither of us willing to do any cleaning. House continues to deteriorate into complete disaster zone over weeks. Can barely walk through living room without stepping on something now. Kitchen counter covered in old food containers and dirty dishes piled high. Bathroom so gross I'm embarrassed to use it, but still won't clean. Realize my rejection of traditional roles has led to rejecting all responsibility. 3 months in, and he stops doing any housework at all completely. Says if I won't contribute to household, then he won't either anymore. Thought this would make me feel victorious, but actually feels worse now. neither of us doing anything, and house is becoming genuinely unlivable space. Laundry piled up so high, we're both re-wearing dirty clothes multiple times. Dishes completely filling sink and covering all counter space in kitchen. Trash bags piling up, because neither of us will take them out. Started getting fruit flies from all the old food sitting around everywhere. Friends stop coming over because they're disgusted by the state of place. Family members make comments about how we're living like college students. Realize I might have taken my principles too far with this stance. House is disaster, and I'm living in filth to prove ideological point. He's living in filth too because I refuse to compromise on anything. Neither of us happy with current situation, but too stubborn to change. Spend evening looking around at disgusting apartment we've created together. See moldy dishes, rotting food, overflowing trash, and feel depressed about life. This isn't what I imagined feminist household would look like at all. Thought rejecting traditional roles would be liberating. Instead, it's just gross. He comes home one day and announces he hired cleaning service after all. Says he can't live like this anymore and doesn't care about cost. Cleaning people come and spend 6 hours making apartment livable again. Costs $400 for deep clean to undo months of our neglect. He pays for it without asking me to contribute to cost at all. Feel mixture of relief, that place is clean, and shame that it came to this. Cleaners judge us silently while scrubbing away months of accumulated filth. Hear them talking in another room about how bad apartment was worse they've seen. Feel humiliated that strangers had to clean up after us like children. But still refuse to admit my principles might have been wrong here. Week after cleaning an apartment is getting messy again already. Neither of us maintaining the clean state cleaners left it in before. He suggests we need to establish some kind of cleaning routine together. Tell him routines are just recreating oppressive gender roles in new form. He says no. Routines are how adults maintain their living space properly. Ask why he's so obsessed with cleaning anyway. It's not that important, he says, because living in filth is depressing and unhealthy for us both. Tell him he's been brainwashed by patriarchal cleanliness standards then. He stares at me like he doesn't recognize who I am anymore. Walks away without continuing argument, and I feel hollow victory again. Month later, and we're back to living in complete disaster again. Hired cleaners to come monthly, but place gets bad between their visits. Paying $400 monthly for someone else to clean our apartment now. He's resentful about the cost, and I'm resentful he hired them without asking. Neither of us doing anything to maintain place between professional cleanings. Realize we're paying nearly $5,000 a year because I won't clean. Could have used that money for vacation or savings instead of cleaning service. But my principles won't allow me to do traditional women's work myself. He points this out and I tell him he could clean instead of hiring. He says no. We both should clean, but you refuse. So this is solution. Friends start making comments about my relationship with housework lately. Ask how I contribute to household if I'm refusing to do any chores. Tell them I contribute by working and earning money, that's my contribution. They point out husband also works and earns money and pays for cleaners. Ask what I actually do around the house on daily basis exactly. Realize I don't do anything at all, not cooking, cleaning, organizing nothing. Justified it as rejecting oppressive gender roles. But really, I'm just lazy. Friends exchange glances and change subject, clearly judging my lifestyle choices. Feel defensive, but also starting to understand how this looks from outside. His parents come to visit and immediately notice I do nothing around house. Watch me sit on couch while their son does dishes after dinner. His mom pulls him aside, and I overhear her asking if everything okay. Says I seem to not help with anything around the house at all. He defends me saying I have strong beliefs about traditional gender roles. His mom says that's fine, but someone still needs to do the work. Suggests maybe I could do non-traditional tasks if traditional ones are issue. He says he's tried that, but I refuse to do anything at all, period. Overhear this conversation and feel mixture of shame and defensiveness about situation. His parents leave early and seem concerned about their son's living situation. Realize my rejection of traditional roles hasn't led to equality at all. Just led to me doing nothing, while husband does everything or pays others. I'm not contributing to household in any meaningful way whatsoever, really. Tell myself it's about principles, but starting to see it's really about laziness. used feminism as excuse to avoid all responsibility for shared living space. He's working full-time, paying for cleaning service and doing whatever cleaning service misses. I'm working full-time and doing absolutely nothing else for our household. This isn't equality. This is me being dead weight in the relationship. 6 months in, and he sits me down for serious conversation again. Says, this isn't working and something needs to change with our arrangement. Tells me he feels like he's living with roommate who doesn't pull weight. Every time he asks for help, I throw feminist theory at him instead. Says he supports my beliefs, but I'm using them to avoid all responsibility. Points out I've created situation where I contribute nothing to home maintenance. Asks what exactly I think my role in household is supposed to be. Tell him I work and earn money that should be enough contribution. He says that's bare minimum of being adult, not contributing to partnership. Realize he's right, but too proud to admit I've been wrong for months. Tell him maybe we're just not compatible if he can't accept my values. He says your values seem to be doing nothing and expecting me to accept it. Tells me rejecting traditional gender roles should mean finding new roles. Not rejecting all roles and all responsibility for household completely forever. Says he's tired of living in filth and paying thousands for cleaners. Tired of doing everything himself while I sit around feeling superior. Asks me directly, what am I bringing to this relationship besides paycheck? Question hits hard because I realize answer is nothing at all lately. I've been so focused on what I won't do, never thought about what I should do. He tells me he's considering whether this relationship is worth continuing like this. Feel panic because didn't realize he was this unhappy with situation. Always assumed he'd just accept my principles and we'd figure it out somehow. Never considered that doing nothing isn't sustainable in adult relationship. He says he loves me, but can't live like this anymore. Either I start contributing something to household, or he's done trying. Gives me ultimatum to figure out what I'm willing to do around house. Says traditional or non-traditional, doesn't matter. But I need to do something. Walks away leaving me sitting there, realizing I might lose him over this. Spend next few days thinking hard about my principles and my behavior. Realize I used feminism as shield against having to be a responsible adult. Told myself I was fighting oppression, when really I was just being lazy. Rejecting traditional roles is fine, but I needed to establish what I would do. Instead, I rejected everything and contributed nothing to our shared life. He was right that I'm basically dead weight who works and does nothing else. Used ideology to justify being terrible partner who won't help with anything. Understand now that being feminist doesn't mean being useless person who does nothing. Sit down with him and apologize for how I've handled this situation. Admit that I used my principles as excuse to avoid all household responsibility. Tell him I was wrong to do nothing while expecting him to accept it. Ask him to help me figure out fair division of labor that works. He seems relieved that I'm finally willing to have real conversation about this. We make list of all household tasks and divide them based on preference. I agree to handle certain tasks that aren't traditionally gendered like organization. He'll handle other tasks and we'll both maintain cleaning between service visits. Feel better having actual plan instead of just refusing to do anything. Realize my problem wasn't rejecting traditional roles, but rejecting all roles entirely. Could have said no to cooking and cleaning, but yes to other contributions. Could have found non-traditional ways to contribute to household maintenance work. Instead, I dug heels in and refused to do anything at all, period. Used feminism as excuse when really I was just being lazy, entitled partner. He wasn't asking me to be housewife, he was asking me to be functioning adult. Difference is huge, but I was too defensive to see it for months. Months later, and we've found rhythm that works for both of us. I handle Bill's finances, organization, and certain cleaning tasks I don't mind. He handles cooking, yard work, and other tasks he actually enjoys doing. We split cost of monthly cleaning service for deep cleaning we both hate. Apartment stays relatively clean because we're both maintaining it between visits. Feel silly that it took 6 months to figure out what should have been obvious. Rejecting traditional gender roles doesn't mean rejecting all responsibility completely. It means finding equitable division of labor that works for your specific situation. Understand now that my feminism was incomplete and self-serving before this. Used it to avoid responsibility while claiming moral high ground constantly. Real equality means both partners contributing fairly to shared household management. Doesn't matter who does what, as long as both people pulling their weight. I wasn't pulling any weight at all, just lecturing about gender roles. Learned expensive lesson about difference between principles and excuses for laziness. Almost lost my relationship because I couldn't see my own hypocrisy clearly. Being feminist means equality, not using feminism to avoid being good partner.